Well, you raise a very interesting point, Holly, because with all of the changes, especially in the business area, whether it was NPI a couple of years back, whether it was preparation for the red flag policies, which never happened, essentially, in terms of applying to physicians. I guess the latest decision is that red flags will not apply to physician offices, correct?
Yes.
So, but still, that doesn't take away from the fact that you had plenty of doctors and hospitals preparing for it. And training their people to do it. So that diverted resources away from doing other types of things. And like you mentioned, high tech, HIPAA, all these other things. Where is the healthcare community going to find time for this transition?
I don't know. That's going to be a challenge, and just the budgetary. The most conservative estimate is that it will cost approximately 2% of net revenue to even begin to implement this successfully. And that's a pretty big chunk of change out of most practices and most facilities.
And that could be your profit for the year.
It could be, and many estimates, for example, the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association estimate it's going to be much, much higher than that.
Right. Well, this is all very interesting. We're going to take a break now, hear from our friends at the Chester Company. But when we get back, we have some other interesting topics to discuss with Holly Louie. We're going to discuss what's the impact of ICD-10 on the current CPT-4 coding system, and what about the whole issue of unspecified codes. And we're also going to get into talking about some of the unscrupulous vendors out there who claim to be experts in the area of ICD-10. We'll be back after this.
Revitalize the image of your practice with marketing and communication services from the Chester Company. We specialize in helping you communicate effectively with your patients, whether it's a patient handout that announces a new service or a new website where your patients can conveniently make their own appointments. The Chester Company is here to help you present your practice and its services in the best light possible. Let us show you how. Call for a free, no-obligation consultation. 860-526-9903. 860-526-9903. Call now.
And we're back. We're here with our guest, Holly Louie, and we're talking about the transition to ICD-10. This is your host, Ron Nyman. And you can listen to our current show and any of our past shows on www.hbnradioshow.com. That's hbnradioshow.com. So here we are. We're going through a lot of issues regarding the transition to ICD-10. And I wanted to know, Holly, what do you think is going to be the impact of this transition on the CPT-4 procedural coding system that physicians use?
Well, Ron, technically nothing. CPT-4 codes will continue to be used by physicians to report all of their services, whether they're providing those services to inpatients or outpatients. So from a coding perspective, nothing. The potential, though, where it could be impacted is choosing the ICD-10 code that supports the medical necessity of the procedures. We don't know what that will be at this point in time, but that's where your impact might occur.
So, and also, one thing that just came to mind as you were talking about, diagnostic codes that support medical necessity, are all the local coverage determinations that Medicare puts out have to be rewritten? I mean, what are providers going to do about that, all these LCDs that they've been relying on for years?
Yes, the 100% will have to be rewritten. Some of the NCDs will have to be. All of PQRI will have to be redone. Pre-authorizations that rely upon diagnostic coding. So, yes, the entire industry is going to be having to rework virtually all of their coverage policies.
And this is getting back to this whole issue of education, keeping your people educated in terms of all these changes. It's going to be a monumental task.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's just not learning what's in the book. It's when you get down to LCDs and those types of things, you're going to have to be really on top of your game when you start billing.
Yes, you are.
And what do you think about, what's your anticipation about the government in terms of compliance violations? Because I see a lot of unintentional billing compliance violations, not because the providers meant to violate any billing and coding regulations, but just because of the overwhelming amount of change that's going to be going on. What do you think is going to be the particular stance that the government's going to take? Do you think they're going to continue to aggressively pursue coding violations, or do you think they're going to say, well, look, for a specified amount of time, we're going to lay back a little bit? What's your anticipation?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, Ron. I think there will be some leniency as people try to learn this, because the providers aren't the only ones learning it. They're having to learn also and having to train their people. I don't think there will be any forgiveness for the same type of things they pursue aggressively now that are egregious and obvious violations with intent to defraud. Innocent mistakes, I think they'll be reasonable about.
But again, you're in terms of really reviewing the claims that you're sending out, and this really goes back to this whole issue about the 6-month delay. I believe a big part of it is going to be providers and their staffs looking at what they're sending out, because they're not going to be sending out things as quickly as they might under the current system, because I think they're going to be extra careful to make sure that they're doing nothing wrong. Would you agree?
I do agree with that, yes.